Hey, it's Dave.
And Dan.
All right, and welcome to another episode of Hooked on Headwaters. And this week, we have a fishing and lake update from Captain Dan. We will also be discussing them big lizards that we have here in Florida. The real big ones, you know, the 12 and 15 foot kind of big lizards. So we're going to chat about gator safety and how to behave around gators. So if you fish here in Florida, you will eventually come across a couple. That's for sure. So let's start it off by turning it over to Captain Dan and to get a lake and fishing report.
Okay, so let's see, if you watched the last video, not so much change really in a week. The water levels are still a bit low, guys, so you need to be careful where you're running. Areas where you know it's shallow is dry now.
Yep.
There are some areas that I'm avoiding running around with the big motor right now, just due to the low water. So be careful with that. Again, the east-west canals, we say all the time, there's only a few cut-throughs you can actually motor through. And the rest of them are like literally 4 inches deep.
Yeah.
You know, so be careful with low water. The water's pretty clear. I was out yesterday at a water temperature of 74 degrees, about 8 o'clock in the morning. So we're in the mid to high 70s right now. So I really like those water temperatures for catching fish. The fish are very cooperative in those temperatures. Weather depending, you know, the fishing's been pretty good.
Yeah.
We had over 2 guys yesterday. We had over 30, I think.
Nice.
The biggest was 6 pounds, 7 ounces. We didn't get any giants. You know, when I say giant, over 8 pounds. Right. But most of my trips recently all been shiners. We did, however, start with topwater and some jerkbaits yesterday morning. Did okay on that too. Okay. So not bad.
Yeah. Is there still blockage? Was it?
There's a few little mats floating in the S canal, but the main canal out to the west cut and east cut is wide open. There's no blockages right now, except at the very end of the S canal to the south, just before you get to the east-west canal. There's a blockage there.
It's still there?
It's still there unless they spray it again and it finally dies and rots away. Okay. It will remain there. Okay.
So, now, will St. John Water Management remove that at some point?
Unless they bring in a barge, you're not going to be able to remove that, because there's no way to get the machine to that location. Yep. Right. You know, there's the west cut that prohibits that. So
those who you're not familiar with the lake along the S Canal, certainly for the first 2 miles, there is a berm with a flat top on it where this machine can get in there and kind of like a backhoe.
It's an excavator.
And they could reach in there and pull some blockages out. The blockage we're talking about is almost at the very end of the S Canal, nearly where it meets the east to west canal.
Correct.
So
so they can't get the machine there because there's a cut that goes to the west. But you know, other than, you can move around the lake pretty well. What I would call, say, maybe the east cut, we'll label it as that, when you're running south down the S Canal, about 1.75 miles, I think we determined, on your left-hand side when you're running south. On the east side, there's a cut through. You can get out into the eastern portion of the lake there. You can get out there, but guys, it's shallow, very shallow. That was old orange groves there, so you can actually visibly see the rise and fall of where the water furrows are. And the cross ditches are where it's really shallow, where they dug drainage ditches. You can actually see it's shallow there. Back a couple months ago when I was running there, it was getting shallow. And now I'll avoid it. I'll go around. If you need to get to me, if you want to stay on the plane, to get to the north and south, but I'd run all the way. I'd go out the west cut, as we spoke about in the last video, and go where the east-west canal and the S canal meet, and go back to the east.
Got it.
So but fishing's been pretty decent. You
shiner fishing this week, artificial?
Shiner fishing yesterday with a little artificial. And we caught some. Did pretty well. The areas I'm fishing in, guys, most of it has some depth to it. Some of it's where there were some old original canals, and I think the fish may be using those as highways. And of course, being that the water's a little lower, some of those fish are going to drop off a little deeper stuff. But pretty much everywhere I'm fishing, I was fishing flats back in January, February, March. I've been fishing that, and I was thinking about fishing it yesterday, just didn't have enough time.
Right.
I'd like to get back out there and fish some of the potholes in the hydrilla. I'm sure there's still fish out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and with I've talked to several other anglers. Just about every lure is working at one point or the other. So everything from worms to spinner baits to buzz
Jerry was out the other day and whacked them pretty good on a chatterbait.
Chatterbait.
You know,
So
I've been catching them on
whatever your favorite lure is, whatever your confident lure is, that's the one to use. And then don't be afraid to change up after a while. How long would you give? How much time would you give in working a lure? I know it's a lot. I know there's a lot of.
That's kind of a loaded question.
Conditions impact that. But
just sit back, relax, guys. It's going to take about 3 hours.
Right. Yeah.
I fish my lures mostly and given conditions that are in front of me at the time.
Right.
Like when you start to learn different areas of the lake and how the bottom is set up, how the depths, how the grass is at that time.
Right.
So my lure selection will vary. That's why a lot of times I'll start my day out. I usually always start with a top water lure, just because that's what we do.
How long?
Before I switch lures, well, it just depends on how bad I want to beat a dead fish instead of a dead horse. Again, it's a loaded question. Here's the thing. I'll pull into an area and I'll use the lures that I have confidence in, that I've caught them in those situations in the past.
Right.
Weather conditions, grass, vegetation conditions, water depth, water temperature. So I may throw 3 or 4 different lures in the same area, trying to figure out what it is they're going to bite. So it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So you got, for instance, some of the areas I'm fishing has like a shallow shelf and then a drop off with hydrilla up on top sometimes. So I might go through there with, depending on how thick the grass is. Like right now, the area I'm thinking about, there's not much hydrilla. So I could go through there with a square bill or a lipless and burn that through there. Yesterday I happened to be throwing a topwater over the top and throwing a jerk bait in there and did pretty well. Now, the same location, if I have a tremendous amount of hydrilla growing up, my ideas are going to change. If it's topped out, I might go to a frog, fish a frog. Throw like a swimming worm, like a bopper, or a curl-tail worm. I will need the edges and in the holes in the grass. Right. So a lot of it depends on the situation. Time-wise, whether to change, I kind of go by feel. If I know I've been catching them on X lure, then that's what I'm going to. I have a lot of confidence in that, just like the jerk bait. I've been catching a lot of fish on a jerk bait, so I'm more inclined to throw that now because I wanted to see how far I can push it. I want to see, I was catching during a spawn on a jerk bait. Are they still, now that they're out of the spawn, are they still biting that bait? And they were yesterday. So that's kind of how I curtail changing things. Now, you can get into some problems just changing too much. Right, which people, let's try and bring it up. Guys, people do it though. 1, 2, 3, they'll make, change up. 15, 20 casts, and they'll change up. Right. And now, I would be changing up, they're retying. And that's how you kind of start developing an arsenal of tackle. It makes it easier. So I say, that guy's always retying, but this guy's always picking up a different rod every 2 minutes to try something different. So if you've only got a couple rods, you got to do what you got to do.
Work with what you have.
You got to deal with the situation in front of you. Fish what you have confidence in, and then explore how. Maybe we need to do a video on this. How I discover my new lures, or not discover my new lures, how I build confidence in my new lures is when I'm catching them good, I'll switch up to see if I can catch them on the other lure. That way I can, 1, see if they're going to even pay attention to it, and 2, if they're going to eat that too, then I build confidence. There's some lures that, I know I can catch them on it, but if, as well as I do, if you haven't caught fish on it, and you're not catching fish, you're not going to keep throwing it. So that's how I had developed my confidence in the lures. It's when things are going good, I switch up and see if I can make it go good on something else. So
that's it. Good advice right there. So let's move on to our main topic. Before we do that, I want to thank the Blue Cypress Lakeside Cabins. Really cool place to stay, kind of a rustic setting. We will be up there in the next 2 weeks to shoot a show, and we'll go hang out with Jim and Tammy there, and bring you kind of views from the lake. Again, a really cool place along the shoreline of Blue Cypress Lake, a natural lake.
Yep.
With big old cypress trees going all over the edge. So great place to kayak, and so we'll see you there in a week or two. We'll be there. I also want to thank the American Bait Works for helping us with the show, and they provide a lot of the giveaways we hand out, and they help to support the show. Thank you, American Bait Works. If you want to shop for rods, terminal tackle, lures, frogging time, scum frogs, go to their website, AmericanBaitWorks.com. Use our discount code, please, Headwaters 15, and you get 15% off all your purchases. That includes the Halo rods. So let's talk about our four-legged big lizards, the gators, here in Florida. I get asked, as most of you know, I kayak a lot. I guide kayaking, and one of the questions I get asked often is, "What about the gators?" You know. As a matter of fact, last week I shot a video on Stick Marsh. I'll talk about that in a little while. One of the comments is, "Hey, dude, you've got a lot of to go out there with all the gators." But the truth of the matter is, I've never had an incident with a gator. Sometimes the small ones they're young and stupid.
Yeah.
they may chase a lure, and I don't let them get too close. I'll bring the paddle out and smack the water. I don't want them to get used to me. I don't want them to get friendly with me, so I make sure I smack the water and they scoot. But sometimes they will chase that lure back to the
yeah. Usually that's the small ones. The small ones will do that. It's because they don't have that real fear of humans yet. They're just focused on, I've got to eat that thing moving there. The times when I start getting a bit worried is when you have a large, mature alligator that gets close. And I've had that happen a couple of times, once on Stick Marsh and then once in Headwaters, to where they were uncomfortably close. I mean, within 12 feet of the boat. And they were very large alligators. And the reason I'm uncomfortable with that is because it's abnormal. Most big alligators you won't get close to at all. So when you're in very close proximity to a large alligator, usually if he moves away from you.
No, they'll scoot. Even in a kayak, you hear the splash. And they scoot real quick.
So typically your big alligators will move away from you before you can even get close to them. Both instances where the gator was getting close to the boat, they came to me. I wasn't moving to them. One of them came from a distance of over 100 yards. I happened to be fishing on Stick Marsh. We were catching a lot of fish, so the fish were jumping a lot. And we had to physically move our lures or our floats away from where the alligator was and cast in different areas. And then when the gator was within like 12 foot of the boat, the guy's like, "Oh, they're taking pictures, And I'm thinking, we're in a dangerous situation because the alligator, he can come in the boat if he chooses to. A friend of mine, Larry, another guide, he actually had one chase a fish up onto his boat. Like that part of the gator's head was over his boat. So I think what's probably happened with these couple of gators, and one of them could have been the same because it was, the way he described it, was a very large alligator. And Headwaters and Stick Marsh are right next door to each other, so all he's got to do is climb over the levee. And they live for next to forever. So it could very well be the same alligator. I think what's happening is somebody's been feeding the alligator. So I actually had some guys one time that they were throwing stuff. I'm like, "Hey, don't feed the alligator." Because then he associates humans with food.
That's right.
And then it loses his natural fear of us, and that becomes very dangerous, you know.
I tell all my clients, do not feed the alligator. Don't throw anything in the water.
Don't harass them.
Don't harass them.
Don't mess with them.
I keep my distance. If I see an alligator, I'll give them plenty of space and go around. especially in April when they are, you know,
they're in their mating. We actually heard one growling yesterday.
Yeah, they're looking. Yeah, it's actually it could run through June, their mating season. Yeah. So a couple of facts. They can be. I wrote a couple of things down. So they can be. First of all, alligators are federally protected.
Correct.
Right, but states can have controlled management,
which they do here in
programs. Florida. Right, hunt. Here in Florida, there's a lottery to hunt them. You pull those
get the
tags, and you can hunt them during the winter months. But typically, I mean, this is the males can get to be 500 pounds. So they have found much bigger than that, up to 1,000 pounds.
The state record was killed. The heaviest alligator was killed in Lake Washington in Brevard County, which is the next county up.
Yep, not far from here.
It was 1,043 pounds. Let me see. I wrote that down. No, excuse me. No, that was not Lake Washington. Lake Washington had the longest. 14 foot, 3.5 inches were killed in Lake Washington.
Yep.
1,043 pounds was Orange Lake in Alachua County.
Golly.
1,043 pounds, guys.
Yep.
That's like a bull in a pasture that heavy. That is a gigantic animal. And 180, 200 pound man, you're a snack.
Yeah.
You know, that you're, we have conversations on the boat with my customers all the time. They're talking about alligators and things, and my comment always is, if you're in Florida and you're in the water, in fresh water, you're on the menu. Like, you're literally on the menu, because alligators are a bit different kind of predator. They're not smart. They're not like a raccoon or something like that. They're not like a bear or a panther. They go basically they do a lot of sight hunting.
Right.
So when you see you have a loud topwater plug, especially on the small alligators, they'll be attracted to that and they'll come from a distance. So if you're in the water splashing around, or your pet's next to the edge of the water, you're in a precarious situation.
A lot of the attacks that we hear about, because people, you know, you just don't walk around a small. Here's a question I get all the time: is there water is there an alligator in that pond? There's a very high chance there is. If there's water, there might be an alligator nearby.
Right.
So don't walk your little puppy dog along the edge of the water. And you're just asking for.
There was an elderly lady that a few months back that actually was killed by an alligator.
Yeah, right.
The alligator, she was walking the dog along the edge of the lake. This is my understanding of it. The dog got attacked by the alligator, and she went in to try to save her dog, and the alligator got her. Very tragic, sad, and horrifying situation.
And with that said, we've got, for the number of alligators that exist in Florida, there are only a few incidents. It's not like these incidents happen.
It's not numerous.
It's not a regular thing, but you need to be careful. Walk around an area like this. Be alert. Have a head on.
Small animals, small children. I actually went to school with a girl, and I didn't find out till years later that her younger brother was killed by an alligator.
Wow.
Okay. So it's a serious thing. It's not something that I worry about. I'm very cautious when my children or my dog is around any kind of body of water. You know, even here, this is a brand new pond here. Basically, it's a week old. But still, I saw on Facebook here 2 weeks ago that a lady had seen a very large alligator crossing County Road 512 going from north to south. So he's somewhere around here somewhere.
Right.
So they do have legs; they can walk. You know, but it's something that I don't think we need to be scared about, but we do need to be aware. Don't make foolish decisions.
Be wise, right? Know your environment, know what's around it, especially if you got a setting like this. We've got some, water and vegetation right up to the water. Just be careful. Don't go trouncing through there, and especially during this time. They're just beginning. They'll start laying their eggs. They'll begin laying eggs now through June, I think. So you don't want to run into a nest. By the way, interesting fact, they lay about 40 eggs. Some of them get crushed by the mom. Others get eaten by raccoons and other animals.
Raccoons are like the worst predator.
Yeah, raccoons are the worst predators.
Yeah, but the nests are hard to find. You got to go looking for them. It takes a trained eye usually.
Right.
There'll be a mound of vegetation. I don't go looking for them. Most times it's going to be an area where I can't get my heavy old boat into anyway. Yeah, raccoons are really bad on alligators.
Yeah, they are.
But alligators are pretty bad on raccoons from time to time too. I had two things happen to me yesterday, Dave.
This is good.
That I've not seen before.
Right.
And both of them happened just yesterday, so it's like I was a little leery of, sticking my hands in the water and picking up fish.
Yeah, listen to this, folks.
Yeah, I have my two guys on the boat. We sit down at our first spot. And I'm talking to them about, and I'm pointing at different areas where, okay, the bottom does this, and there's this kind of grass, so on and so forth, how deep the water is. And I hear a splash behind us, so we all turn around and look. And there's a great blue heron, which they're very great. They're about this tall. Probably the largest heron we have in Florida. It is the largest heron we have in Florida. Very large bird. Well, he's in the water up to his belly, and he's got legs this long. And he's flapping his wings. And I'm thinking he's tangled in some fishing line. So I told the guys, well, let's go over there. So I started the motor, get close, get on the trolling motor. And as we're going over there, down he goes. So I'm thinking, that's kind of odd because he can float even if he's tangled in the line.
Right.
So I get right above him, from me to you, and I can see the bird under the water. And his wings are out like this. His head is up. It's below the surface. And I've got my dip net now, and I'm trying to get my net. Now I'm already thinking, something's got him.
Yeah.
And if it's an alligator and he's eating him, or whatever it is, that's just the way things go. But I wanted to make sure that he wasn't just tangled in some bad line.
Right.
So I'm trying to dip him, and I can't reach far enough to get under his breast, to get under the bird.
Yeah.
Well, as he's there, the boat's here, the bird's here. He silently disappeared. I actually literally saw the air come out of his mouth, his last breath that he was holding.
Yikes.
So I was like, I still feel a little bad.
Yeah.
But it scared me a little bit to think that, okay, this is an area I normally fish, where he was grabbed, whatever grabbed him, it was only about 3 foot deep.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it was probably an alligator. However, I never saw him come up and chomp him or anything. And a lot of times alligators do that. It could have been a large turtle, because if he was wading in the lily pads right next to where he was went under, a large soft shell turtle could have grabbed his foot, thinking it was a minnow. And they got a heck of a grip. They won't let go, and maybe the bird just drowned. But he never did come back up. Poor old bird. Then about an hour later, one of my customers casts, gets hung in the cattails, and he's pulling on the rod, and he hands the rod to me because he doesn't want to break it off. So I'm kind of really pulling on it, working the boat over there, and all of a sudden an alligator shoots up out of the water like he's trying to catch something where the cattail's moving. So I'm thinking, man, I could have been right there reaching for that lure and could have gotten bit. And then bit typically means you're either going to lose a limb or you're going in the water. You're going to get wet. I actually have a good friend of mine, Justin, actually lost a hand to an alligator in 2018. He was on a guided alligator hunt. He was guiding some folks. In a freak accident, an alligator come up and just grabbed him on the forearm, ripped about a 6-inch piece of bone out of his arm. The only reason he didn't go in because the two guys with him bear hugged him while the gator was spinning it. They ended up having to have the hand amputated weeks later because of lack of blood flow and infections with alligators.
That's the thing. If you get bit by an alligator, infection.
Really bad stuff.
Really bad stuff.
They'll eat rotting. I actually saw one eat a rotten turtle one time. I mean, I could smell the turtle before I saw it, and then I saw him coming. He was like a bird dog. He was zigzagging until he got close. As he got closer, his little zigzags got smaller until he could smell it. He was going on scent, and I watched him eat and crunch this turtle shell. And it was putrid. So that's where you get some nasty bacteria growing there. So how do you? I'm cutting you off.
Go ahead.
What do you think a good solution is? I know you say you're giving them a wide berth and things of that nature. But from a kayak, you're at a different perspective. You're really close to the water. You're easier to get toppled over.
I have protection. I don't go on the lake without having a weapon on me, and I have a judge, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a fairly good sized weapon.
Yeah.
I am more afraid of, I mean, I respect alligators. I know they could get ugly, but I'm more afraid of moccasins, water moccasins, than I am alligators, because they will come on the kayak real quick.
Yeah, and they're aggressive.
So, aggressive.
You guys might know them as a cottonmouth. In Florida, we call them a water moccasin.
So I'm not giving them a chance to even get close.
Yeah, if you can't paddle away.
If I'm not paddling away, he's gone. He's going to be gone. I have some birch. Actually, my judge, I use a 410 load. They got pellets in it. He's gone. I have also 38 with bird shot in it, and that'll take care of snake shots, actually, snake shot, and that'll usually take care of a water moccasin.
Yeah.
I was out in Stick Marsh once, and at a distance I see what looks to be a black covert pipe, big, along the shoreline, and I say to myself, that's strange. Why would a covert pipe be out here? It's pretty big, folks. As I get closer, it is a monster alligator.
Yeah.
He never moved. I mean, as soon as I recognized him, I kind of went the other direction.
Yeah, he's like, that thing's smaller than me over there, so I don't care.
So, but that's what I do. I keep my distance, be alert, and I bring some protection just in case, especially from a kayak. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, with it being in a bass boat, I'm much higher off the water. Yeah. I can retreat in the boat itself if I need to. Yeah. Whereas kayak, where you are is where you are.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd want to be in a hand-to-hand or hand to tail. Hand-to-hand combat.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm protecting myself, so you know, I can legally protect myself. And
well, you know, you're not riding around and you're pointing your gun like, oh, there's a gator. You know, that's only if like things are pretty hairy. You know, and you can't retreat.
I don't put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
And one incident, I'm in Headwaters, and I'm on the North Shore coming around. I'm going around the corner, and this gator must have been sunning himself on the other side of the corner, and he jumps in the water. I startled him. He jumps in the water. I got freaked out. I was like, oh, and I did a little rock and roll, but he scooted. So we both had an interesting experience.
Yeah. He had the upper hand. But you know, so what I do is if I try not to get really close to alligators. Right. If he's kind of doing his thing, if my people that are with me, they want a picture, I'll get within a respectable distance, but you know, I'm not going to run up and try to shoo him off the bank. You're not supposed to pester the alligators. You're better off not to. Some other recommendations, guys, if you're not on top of the water, wading. I don't wade in Florida in freshwater. Now, my dad used to in Okeechobee years ago and fly fish for bluegill, but in those times the water was super clean and clear. But I won't do it. You know, some guys call me chicken. I went to school with guys that would go kneeboarding and water skiing on Blue Cypress Lake. You know who you are. Jerry Brimlett may be one of those guys, but he's not here to confirm or deny that. So I don't get in the water because I've had too many instances like what I saw yesterday. I was flipping a shoreline, like an actual hard shoreline with cattails years ago on Garcias, which is another lake nearby Headwaters, and I had an actual bite. Felt like a bass bite. I set the hook and I'm hung. So, you know, I used really heavy braid. It's like, man, I'm hung. So I reel down and I'm lifting and it starts to come up. So I'm thinking I've hung some kind of trash or wood or something was heavy. Well, I lift up and it finally comes up, and it was about a 10-foot alligator from me to you from the boat. And when he cleared the surface with his head, he said, I don't particularly want to be here right now. And he ran under the boat. It scared me. And he was literally within 4 feet of the dry shoreline. So I don't get off in the water and wait around. I think what happened is my lure bumped him right on the mouth, and he just snapped it and grabbed it, which that could very easily be your foot. on the FWC website, myfwc.com is a great resource for a lot of this information.
Yes.
They have things like, one, swim only in designated areas when you're, especially freshwater, only in designated areas. It's illegal to feed and harass alligators. Don't throw them food, don't throw them pieces of your sandwich, don't throw them bait, don't throw them fish, because then they associate you with food. There are reasons that it's illegal to feed alligators. It's because it becomes very dangerous for everyone else.
As a general rule, even in when I do saltwater fishing, I never lock down my drag on a reel, because if I hook into like an alligator, at least he's gonna run, and I can quickly cut him off, versus if that thing is locked down, me suddenly getting pulled over. Not that the kayaks I use are really stable, but it's not going to hold up too. That's right, one less
issue.
I never lock down that drag.
Now there is very few alligators in the Indian River Lagoon where you guide.
Right.
I have, when I was a kid, my dad and I caught one in Winter Beach, which is south of Sebastian, just a few miles. I said caught. We had him for a few seconds in a cast net. We didn't know he was there. We were cast netting mullet, and he ripped 2 or 3 big holes in the cast net, and he was gone. I know in Fort Pierce, which is further south, there's a large one near Harbor Branch, or at least there used to be. I would imagine he's still there. But there's very few in the brackish and salt water.
There was one in Sebastian Inlet this year.
This year or last? Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah,
he actually made it out. He got confused. He actually made it out to the inlet.
Well, they can live out there in saltwater for a while, but they're not like a crocodile. And I don't know if you guys know this, but we actually have the American crocodile. The only place that there's American crocodiles in the United States is in Everglades National Park. And we have saltwater crocodiles down there, and they can get up, I think, 16 feet. Big.
They have a narrower
snout. They look more different.
They do.
They're just as dangerous. You know, but you're not going to really see a crocodile up this. You're not going to see a crocodile here unless somebody relocated him. But
in a way, there is a method to. A way to measure or get the measurement of a crocodile if you see. So normally a crocodile is just going to come up. An alligator. Sorry, an alligator.
Crocodilian.
He's normally you'll see the snout, the tip of the snout, and the eyes. So it is. They say if you can, whatever that measurement is, if you can guess that from the snout to the eyes, say it's 10 inches, multiply that by 12. That's your. So
about a 10-footer. I go by inches. Like if it's the distance is about 10 inches, about 10 foot.
You know? About more or less.
And then keep in mind too, a lot of these alligators are like an iceberg.
You know,
the iceberg, you see this much of it, but there's this much down below the water. There's a lot more alligator below the surface. You know, but there's some big ones around. But I wouldn't say they're docile. I would say that they want to be left alone.
Yes. So there you have it. If you've got an alligator incident you want to share, man, please comment. Let us know. Comment below. Share that. If you've got some other safety tips, share that as well. If you fish in Florida, you're going to come across one.
If you got any great recipes.
They are good eating, by the way. So
there's restaurants around that sell alligator.
That just specialize in alligator.
But don't go. If you guys want to hunt them, you have to. You have to have a permit. You can't just go hunt an alligator. You will go to jail because they'll catch you. You have to apply for the permits. If you've never done it, I would strongly suggest hiring an experienced captain that's experienced with hunting and handling alligators. Just because you see it on swamp people doesn't mean it's easy. It's dangerous, but it's fun. I did it years ago. So did I. You know, it's a lot of fun, but it is dangerous.
Typically done at night.
In this state, it is done. As far as I know, they don't do a bait and hook in this state like we would say Louisiana. Most of it is either shot with a bow, with a snag hook, or a bang stick, or in conjunction with a bang stick. So
okay, so there you have it. Alligators, be on the lookout. Be careful. One last thing, I was out in Stick Marsh last week. If you want to see that video, check it out. It's the last video I posted. It is super low, and you see exactly why it's named Stick Marsh. There's just sticks all over the place. The big tree stumps are exposed. The tip of the sticks, the smaller branches, smaller trees are all exposed. Tough navigating. No way you can get a boat in there, unless maybe an aluminum bottom boat. Maybe you're gonna bump into stuff. Even on the kayak, I bumped into stuff. But check out the video. We will be having FWC on our show in a few weeks. We're just working out the paperwork and getting through that. So it should be quite informative, as their biologist is going to come on board and explain what the project's about, what the planned outcome will be.
Yeah, I actually saw, and I'm assuming this is what they were doing. I saw them on the levee. I saw several trucks.
I think they started
trailers on the levee just this week.
Yeah.
And it appeared that they were carrying things over.
Yeah.
For the Farm 13. It was near the Farm 13 area.
Yeah. So this is a revegetation project. It's co-sponsored. It's FWC and St. John Water Management. They are, my understanding is they're pulling out some vegetation and replanting others.
Oh, cool.
As a lake improvement. So I believe the work started, the first phase of the project started last week in them actually starting the planting process.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. But it's super low. It's supposed to go through the end of August. So
yeah, okay.
All right. Well, that's it, folks.
Fill it back up, hopefully.
Yeah, right.
A lot of rain.
So, folks, there you have it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Captain Dan, once again. If you got any questions or comments, please leave that below. Again, those alligator stories, recipes, comment below. Thank you. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.